Legacy overhead. That's what he called me. I was halfway through updating a compliance audit sheet when the video feed crackled to life. And there he was, Matt, 30 years old if we're being generous. Probably the kind of guy who used Synergy in bed and thought Excel macros were cutting-edge sorcery. The CFO introduced him as the efficiency fixer, which is corporate code for hatchet man with a smile. Tan, tooth-bleached, styled like he Googled alpha male fade. "Hi everyone," he said, giving the kind of smirk you see on guys who still do keg stands at weddings. "I'm here to streamline operations and eliminate process redundancies." His eyes landed on me through the screen like he was scanning for which antique chair to throw out first. I didn't flinch, just clicked save as on the folder I kept with every licensing document, federal renewal timestamp, internal compliance chain tied to my name, labeled it church pancake recipes, and backed it up to a private drive. Dana Miller wasn't going out like a rookie. By lunchtime, I heard him in the break room joking with two junior analysts about phasing out boomer infrastructure. I'm 42, not a boomer, but in Matt's world, if you don't TikTok your workflow, you're obsolete. Then came the huddle open floor plan. Everyone standing around like it was an exorcism of common sense. Matt pulled up a slide deck filled with nonsense phrases like agile compliance ecosystem and decentralized accountability hubs. I watched 3 interns nod like they were witnessing the second coming of Elon Musk. Some of our team members, especially those with legacy responsibilities, will be reassessed to ensure alignment with our lean strategy, he said. Then staring right at me, "We appreciate your historical contributions, Dana." Historical like I was a damn sarcophagus in HR's basement. I didn't say a word, just smiled. The kind of smile you give when someone walks into a bear trap you've been camouflaging for a decade. Oh, and quick pause before we keep going. If you're listening and not subscribed, help a soul out. Trying to hit 10,000 subscribers, so I can finally afford a chair without a missing wheel. Seriously, 95% of y'all listen without clicking the button. Just one tap and you'll make this girl real proud. Alright, back to the meltdown. That night, I stayed late. Not because I had to. I wanted to watch the system breathe like a mother watching her kids sleep before CPS shows up. I double-checked my credentials across 3 federal platforms. Free active certification, renewal control, licensing PIN, and audit clearance still tied to my name. I made sure the timestamps matched. Then I printed my contract clause, the one nobody ever reads. Section 7C. In the event of involuntary termination, all company-paid licensing responsibilities and regulatory certifications shall be considered void, and all credentials will be formally rescinded within 48 hours of contract nullification. Nobody noticed when I left the building, but I noticed the way Matt's eyes lingered on me that morning like a lion staring at a cow, not realizing the cow has access to predator drones. You ever see a man mistake a fuse for shoelace? You will. By the next Tuesday, Matt had taped a poster above the copier that said compliance not equal to complacency. The font was Comic Sans. Then came the real fun. Everyone, yes everyone, was told they had to renter for their evolved role. It was spun like a bonding exercise, like we should be grateful for a chance to pitch ourselves for the same job titles printed on our health insurance cards. One by one, folks shuffled into conference rooms like kids headed to the principal's office. The newer hires came out smiling, pairing things like Matt really sees me and he's bringing fresh air. I wanted to tell them that kind of air comes from a busted sewer. Great. When it was my turn, I didn't bring a resume. I brought silence. Matt barely looked up from his laptop. Dana, you've been here a while. 10 years, I said. Cool as a cucumber in a snowstorm. Right. Institutional knowledge. We value that. His fingers tapped the keys, probably typing Fire Dinosaur into Slack, pulled up a half-baked organizational chart, and pointed at a box labeled Regulatory Stewardship. Under it, my name crossed out. Next to it, Open to be reassigned. Then he clicked a tab labeled Q3 Renewal Delegation. My eyes clocked the file name Q3 License Ruth Plan V1. In the comments, it read, "Can this be transferred downstream?" Downstream in Matt's peak meant dumped onto someone too green to spell OSHA. I smiled, didn't flinch, but inside a siren started wailing. When I got back to my desk, I opened the database I'd built from scratch in 2016. The one that tracked every compliance certificate, its expiration date, which governing body it reported to, and who had signature authority. There were 43 items on the list, 43 licenses, 43 pieces of red tape woven together into one tight corporate noose, and all of them tied to me. Exported a fresh copy of the log, encrypted it, zipped it, renamed it Employee Birthday Cake List, and emailed it to a private account. Then I cleared the sent items. Call me paranoid, but I've seen what happens when children play with matches and call it innovation. Later that afternoon, he reassigned my inspection prep to a marketing intern who thought FDA stood for Food Design Aesthetic. No lie, she asked if that meant redesigning the lunchroom posters. Meanwhile, I was tasked with reorganizing the janitorial supply shelf. He said it would keep me in the loop at a foundational level. Foundational like mold. I asked politely if I still had admin access to our licensing dashboard. Matt blinked like I just spoken Aramaic. Oh, I think we routed that to Chloe last week. You don't really need it anymore, right? Chloe had just learned what a PDF was. I didn't argue, just nodded, logged into a terminal down the hall, and revoked her access from the shadow admin panel I'd never told anyone about. If I was getting kicked off the ship, I wasn't leaving the map behind. I walked past Matt's glass-walled office later that day. He was laughing on a call, something about scrubbing out the old wood. He didn't notice me watching, but I noticed something. The fuse was shorter now, and the room smelled like smoke. The first time I heard them laughing, I let it slide, was 3 of the junior analysts, fresh from college, still wet behind the ears and smug with borrowed confidence, hovering over a print out of my old compliance flowchart, like it was a cave painting. This thing uses color codes like it's a Crayola box, one snorted. Another added, she even timestamps everything manually. Does she know automation exists? They were clustered near the break room like a pack of overconfident poodles, sipping cold brew and dropping buzzwords like agile iteration and machine learning integration, as if those phrases had ever stopped a federal audit. I walked past head high, but my spine burned. By Wednesday, I'd been locked out of 3 internal dashboards, 2 of which I designed. No warning, no access request, just a red 4003 screen, and a pop-up that said, "Contact your system administrator." Spoiler. I was the system administrator, or had been. Emailed it. No reply. I tried calling HR. The voicemail was colder than January in Detroit. Finally got a real person after 4 attempts. They said, "Sorry Dana. All HR requests now go through your departmental manager." That's Matt. That's Matt. Like they were announcing the second coming, but with more hair gel and less divine oversight. I didn't reply. Just hung up and stared at my monitor, empty but glowing. Been cut off from every meaningful interface in less than a week. No explanations, just streamlining. Matt was smart in that insidious MBA way. Never enough to build something, but just smart enough to know how to dismantle it under the cover of policy updates and reorg memos. He'd started slipping little grenades into his weekly updates to leadership, legacy processes under review, potential staffing overlaps, redundant certification management identified. That last one was cute, like you could overlap a federally mandated authority signature tied to my biometric profile. I'd become a walking contradiction, officially employed, but strategically erased. So I scheduled a 10-minute slot at a notary office, quiet little place above a nail salon on Monroe Avenue. No fanfare, just me, a stiff chair, a form titled Voluntary Relinquishment of Licensing Authority. I didn't sign it yet, just notarized the option. A safety pin tucked into my coat pocket in case things turned into friol. Afterward, I walked back to the office with a peppermint latte and the deadest smile you've ever seen. Matt passed me in the hallway and said, "Hope you're feeling more aligned this week." I nodded, just tying up loose ends. He smiled. Corporate snake smile you'd find in the self-help section of a Barnes & Noble next to Crush It. And a scented candle. What he didn't know was that every loose end I tied came with a fuse. And I had the match. It happened on a Monday. Because of course it did. The kind of Monday where the air in the office feels like microwaved plastic, and everyone pretends they like their jobs just enough to survive another week. We were all gathered for Matt's new weekly momentum sync, which was basically a TED talk for sociopaths. He stood at the front of the open-floor bullpen in his tight blue blazer, and did that palms-out gesture like he was calming down a herd of sheep. Let's start with some candy.